Charlie Kirk, right? And you know what clips are going viral with you. A month ago, you're calling out, what do you call it? Turning Point USA. And I don't know what you said, but you said it. You know what it is. You can fill in the context on what you said, right? I'm not going to play the clip. But you were saying something. It's the clip where you're at the top and the other one's at the bottom, right? What you said before, and now it's like, hey, listen, Charlie was a Christian. He was trying to do this. You were very complimentary about Charlie. Okay. And Charlie Kirk got assassinated. And you've had death threats of people coming to your door, right? And things happening. How much has the last 12 days, because, at first they're like, well, it's Israel. You're like, no, it's not Israel. You're actually a person that I would have thought would have been the first to go there. You actually said, no, I'm not going there. Charlie, Nick is a Fed. All right. This person's CIA. All right. That kind of went away. Didn't have a long lifespan. It's gone. Hey, it's the Groypers that did it. It's your creek. It was out of the 13 questions, 11 were Groypers, whatever the number was. I may be wrong. I don't want to, go fact check me on what the number is, but I read somewhere that a number of the people that asked the question were Groypers. Groypers asked me a question when I was at Amphis, when the guy got up and said, how come you've never had Nicholas J. Fuentes on? And I said, he's got to stop saying the N-word. And this is when you kind of came back and reacted to the video. How are you processing this with Charlie Kirk? I've seen the tweets, I've seen the videos, but how are you processing this?
Well, on a personal level, it's terrifying, because he was out there and he got blown away doing what we all do, which is a public event or something like that. And of course, the same thing happened to me last year. Somebody came to my door with a gun while I was doing my show and tried to kill me. And so you realize we do really have a problem in the country with this kind of violence. That was kind of the first level. My first reaction is I didn't know if this was some lone nut job. Is there some kind of coordinated attack? If there would be copycats or something. But then on a deeper level, people are calling me a hypocrite because I had complimentary things to say about Charlie, even though he was my adversary in politics. But I don't see it as a contradiction. I disagreed with him. I still disagree with the things he said. And my views on him from a professional point of view hasn't changed. What I have processed is the reaction to the killing from all of his fans and from people. You see that millions of people were touched by his activism. And I looked at his activism in a very one-dimensional way, which is that he's pro-Trump, he's pro-Republican, he's pushing the talking points. We would call it Talking Points USA. That was kind of the joke.
TPUSA Talking Points.
Right, USA. Talking Points. His job is to go out there and sell, the party. But seeing the outpouring of support, I saw a lot of young people that were emotional. Young men, young women going to the vigils and actually distraught. And I think they were distraught, one, because it was so evil what was done to him. To see that kind of violence was really upsetting. But also I think people were touched because Charlie Kirk, it does put things in perspective when a person dies. I don't believe he was a bad man. I disagreed with him. I didn't like his politics. But what I have come to respect about him is that he was a very hard worker. He was kind. You noticed that when he talked to people he didn't like or disagreed with. He was open to other people. He changed his mind, even when he dealt with me. And he was never particularly nice to me, let's just say. But he was to a lot of people. And maybe more than anything, the thing that touched people the most was his testimony of his faith, that he believed in God. And, I didn't like what he advocated for politics, but what he advocated for Christianity. That's the part that people are going to remember him for. That's the part that people, when they think Charlie Kirk, they don't think of the Republican debate bro. They think about a guy that was preaching marriage, values, decent Christian values, Christ himself and his sacrifice on the cross. He was Protestant, I'm Catholic. And when they held the memorial yesterday, I'm going to tell you the truth, I thought there were things about the memorial that were distasteful. But one thing that was exceptional about it is the way that the name of Christ was proclaimed to everybody. And I think that, when you see someone die like that, the reason it's jarring for people is because we realize that we're all going to die. Suddenly, unexpectedly. And like him, he's 31 years old. Nobody expects that a 31-year-old with that kind of money and influence is going to die all of a sudden. He had plans. He was going to get on his private jet and fly to do another event some other time. Nobody expects that you're going to die, someone like that at that age. And when you see someone like that cut down so viciously, you realize how life is so fragile and it's so temporary and it's so short. Any day we could all die. And what that then naturally makes us think about is, well, what does it all really mean then? If you could get stopped in your tracks at any time like that, what actually really matters in life? And what mattered about Charlie, when you see in the end, is it's not actually the times when he was maybe taking the piss and saying, what is a woman? It's the times when he was sincerely professing his faith, talking about moral virtues and the moral virtues that he lived in his deeds. And so to me, I guess it was a change in perspective, kind of realizing everybody asks the same question, how will I be remembered? You know, when we get unexpectedly killed or when we die or when bad things happen. And it's a challenge to kind of live every day thinking, could today be the day, you know, and what did I do on my final day? How did I act? Did I tell the truth? Was I courageous? Was I kind? You know, not just to my friends and my family, but also to my enemies. So I think it brought people to the center a little bit, centered in a spiritual sense.
Did you at all watch it yesterday where you had moments of sitting there saying, this was a good guy, man. Shit, you know, I wish I would have changed the approach with our relationship. Did you at all have that moment?
I don't know that I would have changed my approach because politics is vicious, you know, and that's just the game. He was vicious to us. We were vicious to him. But I do think that I harshly judged him. I think when anybody dies, you feel that way. And I think especially since he died, you look at him and you realize this guy was not actually the worst guy in the world. You know, he was kind of my nemesis in a way. And maybe I was his on the right wing. But I realized that we had so much more in common than we disagreed with, actually.
So do you think when you hear the statement, let's find a way to lower the temperatures, do you in your mind say, shut up with this lowering the temperature bullshit. Stop it. Lower the temperature. Do you know what's going to... Do you hear that message now and say, maybe we got to lower the temperature? Hey, maybe if I got all these young guys that are following me, how Christ-like am I being? What am I? This whole WWJD, I had a call with somebody 2 days ago. I won't mention the name, but also very talented and capable. Very. Person I believe in tremendously as well. And we also, you know, have had a challenge. But I said, listen, every time as I'm going through this, and I'm out there, I took my kids. Everyone's like, don't take your kids to, you know, what do you call it? The Charlie's and I said, no. I'm taking my kids. I believe in God. I have faith. And if I move forward with fear, what a coward. I'm a leader. I'm a leader amongst leaders. We're going to go there. They sit there proud. We're good. Of course, we make the investment for security and all that stuff, but we got to go. We can't change our life dramatically where we're seen as being cowards, right? We're never going to do that. This is America. It's the greatest country in the world. I'm going to do my part. My life has changed because of God, Jesus, America. I am the luckiest human being alive. That is my feeling, the vibe that I have, right? But when you hear the words, we got to lower the temperature, what's the first thing you think about?
I think it's kind of just a wrong perspective on it because, you know, I'm an intense person and I think that this is a decisive moment for America. And, you know, what really made me beside myself is not necessarily that someone killed Kirk, because there's a lot of crazy people out here that unfortunately do carry out acts of violence. It was that there were like 100,000 liberals who are in their right mind that were celebrating, that were glib about it, that crashed vigils, that danced, that laughed, that mocked it, that said it was a good thing, he deserved it. And you realize that it is a battle between good and evil. And I don't believe that when you're fighting evil, you lower the intensity. I think that we must very intensely fight evil because we have to win. If we lose, and by we, I mean decent people, they're going to hurt us and they're going to destroy the things that we care about. So for me, it's not necessarily about intensity. Temperature, I would say intensity. I think we should all fight for what we believe in intensely every day. I would change it and say it's really a question of love and hate. It was a hateful action to kill Charlie Kirk. It's a hateful action to celebrate. I think that we should be intense, but we should also move in love. And what that means is, you know, I said this on my show, people kill each other with bullets and literally murder each other and take their lives. We also kill each other by destroying each other's reputations. When we lie about somebody, when we gossip about somebody, when you go and actually do the examen of conscience at confession at a Catholic church, and you go through all the different sins, and you say, because you have to contemplate, you have to confess everything, every mortal sin, you have to confess all of it. So first you examine it systematically. Have I done this? Have I done that? And one of the violations of the commandment, thou shalt not kill, is gossip, detraction. It's attacking somebody with a lie, because that's a form of killing somebody in a certain sense. It's a form of damning somebody. And so I wouldn't say we need to lower the intensity, but we should always move in love. And by that, I don't mean some kind of like new age and move in love, very vague and non-specific.
Totally. Yeah.
But I mean, we should want what's good for everybody. We should will the good for us, and also even for our enemies too, and for the whole country. And so that's why I said my first reaction when I did my show, a lot of people said, well, we now got to go and kill two of theirs. They killed one of ours. Now we need to get violent. Now we got to go and pick up arms. How many's too many? I think there were, not anybody notable, but I think there were a lot of people that were thinking that.
On the conservative side?
I think so.
You think so?
I do.
Are you saying groypers, or you're saying like, what part of that? Because are you saying groypers?
No, absolutely not.
You're saying just conservatives, period.
I'm saying, yeah, I think that, do you think that after people saw Charlie Kirk get murdered, there weren't at least some people that said, we have to match the left?
Perfect. I'm glad you brought that up. So my initial reaction, I'm a very bad person. Very. Initial reaction is vengeance, right? That's normal. Initial. But, that's the part where, there's certain people that will come say stuff about me. They say it all the time. You've got money from Assad. We don't do sponsorship money here. We haven't taken sponsorship money for 2 years. The only thing we take is AdSense, and that's what YouTube does. We don't pick and choose what it is, right? But they'll say stuff like that. Doesn't bother me, because it's like, if you fight it, they're going to do more of it. So what are you going to? That's what bothers them. Let me keep going. Nah, I'm good. I'm going to do your part. Maybe if I was in my 20s, I would constantly fight that over and over and over again. I'm not. To me, I also think there's a moment here, where we have a moment. I feel like within the Conservative Party, there's a lot of different gangs, okay? In a mob, if you go study the history of the mob with Lucky Luciano, when they created the commission, all these different families came together, right? It doesn't mean we're buddy. Hey, how you doing? Everything's good. That's not what that means. It just means, listen, at the end of the day, maybe the enemy isn't who we think the enemy is, okay? Maybe you and Charlie, 90%, I don't know, 80, 90%, you were on the same page. Is it worth us getting this nasty over the 10%? I don't know. I don't know. I feel we're at an era right now that I think all the voices matter. And I think, I don't know what your aspirations are long-term. Do you have any aspirations to run for office one day?
Potentially.
Okay, potentially. Do you think Charlie was going to one day run for office?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I said that all the time. I think you probably have some plans of one day running. They showed me a clip when he said, I want 100,000 people that are making money, low-key, underground, nobody knows, where you're kind of breaking that down. Okay, great. So you want to run for office one day. Great. You have your own certain ideas, philosophies that you want to go. But I think that this next part, as we go through it, this is an MLK moment. This was the MLK of Republicans and conservatives. Even though Martin Luther King was a Republican and his wife called Nixon to get some help, they didn't call back, and then he called John F. Kennedy. She called, and then that's when they flipped. I'm going to be a Democrat, and then next year, and then you got Barry Goldwater, and the whole thing is a mess. African Americans were conservatives for many, many years, statistically.
Hi, I'm Nick Fuentes. If you want to text me or call me or ask me a question, you can find me on Minect.
If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.